Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to AriesEDC. So, in the last video, we had talked a little bit about the Torcido, and I said that I needed to do a video based on building the scales for this knife. So, I'm going to do that the best that I possibly can. I've been kind of cutting out the individual pieces that are going to go into this. When you ask me to do an inlay or do multiple piece construction, sometimes it gets to the point where I actually have to build the scale itself. And that's the case of this, because we're going to do just a little inlay. And as simple as it seems, it gets a little bit in depth, because to do a nice inlay, I could just throw this in, cut this scale in half, put this in, and then be done. But I found that kind of is okay, but it's missing a little something. So on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm cutting these little pieces of G10. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little liner between this poplar burl and the Jumagem. And so I'm in the middle of cutting all these little pieces out, and I need more of the black, so I'm gonna have to cut a bunch more out. I think I need 6 more little pieces of this, so that's why I have some of this laid out, and I have this little piece that I need to cut a bunch of little strips of this G10 out. And I know it's going to be difficult to see, but you're going to have black, white, black next to the Jumagem. So it's going to be black, white, black, and then it's going to be the same on the other side between the poplar. So it's going to be black, white, black, Jumagem, black, white, black. I hope that makes sense. But I have to cut more black G10 out. I also need to trim these pieces of the poplar. I need to trim that off. And I need to cut this. But first I need to cut this. And that's going to be hair raising, because, well, it has to be almost a perfect cut. And if it's not, then I'm going to have to flatten it out somehow. And then this has to be exactly even when I go to put it on the knife. Or when I put it on the knife, I want the inlay to be even on both sides. I don't want this inlay to be here and then the other inlay to be over here. It just doesn't look right. So you have to be very cautious of exactly where this is going to go. So it gets a little hairy, and you only have one chance to cut it, and it has to be perfect. So no pressure, right? But basically what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to cut this, then I'm going to trim the end off so that I can get all of this together, and then I'm going to glue a flat scale. So I'm going to glue all of these things together before I even think about drilling holes or shaping it to the handle. But I have the handle set like that, so you can see exactly how long it needs to be. And then the inlay is going to end up being somewhere right in here. So right before that pin, because we're going to have a copper pin here, a copper pin here, and a tube. So right in here is where the inlay is going to be. And I need to make sure that that inlay stays away from where the copper pin is going to be. So it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm trying to make it all work. I don't think I'm going to cut this end off yet, but it's going to be it's going to be nerve-wracking to try to figure all of that out, that's for sure. So we're going to try to slowly put all this together, but first I need to cut some of this so that I can get more of this G10 pieces for the knife. So let's go start cutting. All right, guys, I have all the individual pieces here. I know you can't really see all of them, but I'm gonna start breaking it all down here for you guys. Let's move this out just a little bit. All right, so I have 2 scales, and what I need to do is just one more thing, and then these guys, and then I can glue all these up, and then once they're glued up, then I can start blocking it off so it'll be easier to work with. So let me move, well, this is gonna be tough, but I'm gonna move that one over here, and I'm gonna move this one over here so you guys can see what we did. So I have several different pieces here. So we have the front piece of poplar, we have the black, white, black liner, we have the Jumajam, and then again we have the black, white, black liner. And I'm using really thin liner material for the black, so the black liner will be very thin, but it will still block off the white. And then I have the last piece of poplar, and that's all going to get glued to a base, which is another thin layer of G10. That serves as kind of holding everything together. So I'm going to glue individually all these pieces onto here. So all of that is going to get glued together, and then that way I have one nice scale to work off of. So before I even get to the point where I'm laying this out and working on everything, I have to actually create the scale. So I had to cut everything, get everything lined up, get everything looking really good, even, etc. And then I can glue everything up to make the scale, and then once the scale is made, then we can start talking about attaching it to the knife and shaping it, etc. But until then, I can't really do anything. But one thing I do want to do before I start doing everything, I have these little pieces of sandpaper. I'm going to sand down all these little pieces of G10, the Jumajam, the edges of the poplar to make sure everything is smooth. So when I glue it all together, everything is smooth to glue together. So I have a lot of little hand sanding to do, a lot of little bits and pieces to do. And one thing I need to do is I need to figure out which way I'm gonna put the knife. I think it's gonna go this way, because then this goes here and it's gonna go to that line, so that the inlay is right about in this area and it'll finish before this pin. So I might have to move that back, but it's going to be kind of in the middle of the handle somewhere. So that's where the inlay, I would like it closer to that pin, but obviously not obstructing where this hole is where a copper or a brass pin is going to be. So I want that pin to be away from where all of these little pieces are going to be. So I got to lay it all out, and I'm going to drill little relief holes on the back of the poplar where that attaches to the liner, so that it has a place for the glue to be, and it's a little bit of a stronger connection. But I have to make sure those holes are in a spot where they're going to be covered by the handle. Because if it's on the edge and there's a hole, then guess what? When I go to sand this and shape it, you're going to see that on the edge of the handle, and you don't want that. You don't want to see any gaps or anything. So it's very, very time consuming. It's very, very detail oriented when I do this, and it takes me twice as much time. So I'm going to lay this out, drill some holes, And then we're gonna start gluing all of these little pieces up. So I better go get to work. All right. All right, so I think these two are in really good shape right now. And I am freaking out, but I think I'm ready to glue these up. So I need to figure out how I'm gonna do that, because I'm gonna have to glue them down onto something, and I don't wanna use this mat. So I'm gonna have to come up with something else to put down here. And I guess I can use the mat. I'll just tape it up and then glue everything flat to the table here. I have some clamps that I could use to do that. So I'm gonna go set that up, and we're gonna start gluing, because I'm also gonna be gluing up the other September builds, because they're all ready to be glued up as well. So I'm gonna glue all of this stuff up at one time, I hope, unless this glue starts to get away from me, and then we might have to mix up some more glue. But I think I'm gonna do these first, and then I'm gonna do the scales, and I'll check back with you guys when I'm done. Well, all right, there it is, guys. I have the scales built. They're all glued up over here. They all look good. So I just have to wait and hope and send a couple prayers that these end up looking pretty good. So I guess I have nothing to do but sit around and wait for these to dry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean up, and I'll check back in on these in the morning, and we'll see how they look. Or maybe I'll come back out tonight. Maybe. I probably will, because I'm just a nutcase. Oh, I also glued up those two, which probably in another video, but anyway, we're getting there. Well, all right, so I glued up these scales. So they're glued up. So the next step with these, and I wish you would have seen me trying to peel all of them off of this tape. That was not fun. There's still tape on here. I kind of glued it to the table, which is not good, but the tape I can clean off, and some of this is it's all gonna get cleaned up. So what I have to do, I'm gonna take these to the grinder, and I'm gonna smooth all this out, get these liners down, get everything at the same level. So we're gonna have to just get it all done. Yeah, it's a lot of work just to figure out some inlays, but this is the extra steps that we do to make it look nice and pretty. So I think we're looking really good, and that material is gonna look pretty awesome on the Torcido. So I'm gonna get these guys cleaned up tomorrow after work, and hopefully they'll all look pretty darn good. I'm starting to see some things I don't like, but we're gonna see how it looks when I get it done. All right. Well, all right, guys, so I got these cleaned up. You can see, got everything even. It's all looking pretty good. I just need to clean the bottoms of them up a little bit. But that is basically how you get the scales. So now I have perfect scales that I could start using now to get the Torcido done.
So I hope you guys like these. It's a very long process. You think, oh yeah, we'll just do an inlay, but it's always a lot harder than you think it is. Let me see. That'll give you a better idea of what those are going to look like in the end. But yep, it's going to look pretty good. So I got all the layers, everything's where it should be. And once I start cutting into this and drilling the holes and getting it all set up, that is going to be a big job. But that will be on the build. So I hope you guys enjoyed the building of these scales. It is a lot of work, and it's not quite as cut and dry as someone might think, but looks like I'm in pretty good shape right now. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you really appreciated that. Let me know in the comments, but as always, please subscribe, like, leave a comment or not. The choice is always yours.